vision for where we need to go as a state. My vision where I want to take this state is to create a magnet for investment capital, both financial investment and for human capital. I want people to decide that Michigan is the best place for them to do business. And to make that happen, what we need to do is we need to remove the bureaucratic burdens to doing business in Michigan. I talked to a lot of business people who have said it's just hard for us to do business here. We want to grow, we want to expand, we want to do this, we want to do that, all of which would create jobs. And the state has put barriers in place to making that happen. The second thing that you want to do is you need to go back. Capital wants to get a return. We've made it expensive to do business in Michigan, so people have decided that they'll invest their capital somewhere else because it's easier to get a return on that capital. And then the third thing that I would really want to do that I think can make a positive direction for the state is to work on K through 12 education, to provide a more predictable funding stream, so we're not going up and down in funding, but also to make a very vibrant K through 12 education system that includes traditional public education, charter schools, private, parochial, and homeschoolers. We create a very strong, vibrant K through 12 education that will also attract people into this state. Parents really have a passion about making sure their kids get a good education. And if we can build a great K through 12 education system that can get a hold of the bureaucracy and make the bureaucracy a catalyst for growth rather than a barrier for growth. And the second thing that I would hope that we could do is that we could get agreement on passing tax reform, addressing the anti-business features of the Michigan business tax. It's complicated and it's expensive. It's the worst of all kinds of taxes. It's hard to go through the process and figure out exactly how much you owe. And when you get done with the process, it's like, whoa, look at all that look at the check I've got to write to the state. So fix that. Make it easier to get to the, oh, look what I've got to write. Because at the end of the day, nobody likes paying anything priorities. Where you want to go with the budget. I think the governor sets the tone. You then have to recognize that you need to make a priority getting it done. We've gone through, I've been involved in a government shutdown in Washington way back in 1995, and it's not a fun place to be. But what it does is it recognizes that there are sometimes very entrenched positions that are hard for people to get to a compromise to enable you to move forward. I think what's been lacking in the last government shutdowns is that there's been a lack of clarity as to what the governor was willing to do, where she wanted to go, and what her priorities were. Hopefully, the legislature would clearly understand my objectives and my priorities. The other thing that is different between the federal government and the state, at the state it's more difficult because you have one other criteria. You have to have a balanced budget, which means you have to reach resolution. In Washington, it's easier sometimes to reach resolution because people can agree just to spend a little bit more money they don't have, which is how we've gotten into the problem in Washington. So that the requirement of a balanced budget, I think, is a good requirement at the state level. Makes it tougher, but I think it's very, very much needed, and it's just good public policy. So the other thing that a governor can do is they can establish their priorities, know that they got to get to a balanced budget, and then what happens is that balanced budget has to be done by the end of September. What you need to do is you just need to tell the legislature that if it's not done by August, or you're not well on your way to getting it done and you can see that all the obstacles have been removed, you just say, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be here in August and I'm going to be working. And you don't threaten them. Okay, it's just kind of like, I'm going to be here working. You know, and if on Monday I'm going to be here, and you know, I would hope that you'd be here as well to work with me to go through this process. Do it in a constructive, professional way. And my guess is if the people of the state of Michigan see that their governor's there working, and that the governor's calling for the legislature to be there as well, not threatening, but just saying, hey, we think you ought to be here. We ought to be working through this, and it's important that we get it done. You'd work through the month of August. And if it looks like you're really going to have some major obstacles, you know, I would try to find savings in government spending, find efficiencies. You know, and I think that one of the, you know, we're starting to put together a group. And I've talked with some people that are going to try to help me outline and say, okay, here's, you know, X number of savings that we've identified in the state budget. I think there's other, you know, and I think that, you know, not every savings has to be a cut in services. Some of it is just about doing things smarter. I mean, at Herman Miller, and I'm sure here at the paper, you believe that you've cut some costs out of the business that haven't had an impact on your customer. You've just decided that, you know, hey, we found some efficiencies here on how to do things better. And based on that, you know, we're going to implement it. I'm sure that there's others that you came up to and say, well, this is going to have an impact. This is going to hurt. It's going to have an impact on our employees. It's going to have an impact on our customers, and it's a hard decision. But I think that there may be there continue to be savings that you can identify that may not be